Temperance, the Basis of Many Virtues, by Sarah Levesque. Moderation in all things, unknown. Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary defines moderation as, quote, avoiding extremes of behavior or expression, observing reasonable limits, calm, temperate, end quote. The same dictionary defines temperance as, quote, moderation in action, thought, or feeling, restraint, end quote. Temperance, therefore, is a perfect example of Aristotle's definition of a virtue as the golden mean, the mean between extremes. The Catholic Church has a definition similar to Merriam-Webster's, but with an added admonition. Quote, the virtue of temperance disposes us to avoid every kind of excess, the abuse of food, alcohol, tobacco, or medicine. Those incur grave guilt who, by drunkenness or love of speed, endanger their own and others' safety on the road, at sea, or in the air. Catechism of the Catholic Church, 2290, end quote. Any lack of temperance can severely impact the life of anyone, whether it be their own intemperance, lack of moderation, or the intemperance of someone else. An excessive smoker endangers his own life as well as the lives of those living with him. One who drives too fast or too slowly may likewise endanger his own life or the lives of those around him. But these examples, though common, may themselves be extreme. Every day we each ought to practice temperance in all things but agape love, the love that wants the best good for another in light of eternity. More on that later. This temperance or moderation is the basis of many virtues. We should be temperate in our eating habits, lest we fall into gluttony, in our work and leisure habits, lest we fall into sloth. We should be temperate in our anger, lest we fall into the vice of wrath, in our fear, lest we fall into cowardice, in our passion for justice, lest it become vengeance. Of course, this is difficult. Our emotions are certainly a part of our human experience, something natural to us. But they, too, need moderation, for an excess of anger causes pain, and an excess of fear can lead to hate, as Yoda explained to Luke in the original Star Wars trilogy. An excess of passion may be misconstrued, may cause confusion, fear, pain. An excess of agape love is impossible. Again, agape love is to want the best good for another in light of eternity, desiring that another person reach heaven and helping them stay or go to the right path. This is the love that God has for us. As such, there cannot be excess, but only a deficiency. It is also problematic to lack the proper amounts of all these things: food, work, leisure, agape love, etc. A lack of food leads to health issues. Lack of work, intentional or not, leads to poverty. Lack of leisure leads to burnout and health problems. While these may not have fancy names like the above-mentioned vices, they are still problematic, still missing the mean between extremes, the mark of virtue. Of course, what counts as excess in one situation may be perfectly acceptable in another. The anger felt over an impersonal social media post is expected to be far less than anger directed at someone who is intentionally and physically harming someone. The fear of bees is rightfully more intense for someone who is allergic compared to someone who is merely avoiding the pain of a bee sting. At a feast, it seems more acceptable to eat beyond what is customary, while during a fast, it is acceptable not to eat at all. Obviously, these are just a few examples. I expect you could come up with many more. The third chapter of Ecclesiastes tells us that there is a time for everything. Temperance is knowing what the proper response to a situation should be and responding appropriately without lack or excess. Without temperance, virtue is impossible, as virtues are found in the mean between extremes. While it is certainly difficult, God calls us to do our very best and to try to be moderate in all things, to be virtuous in all things, to be perfect as he is perfect. Matthew 5:48. If we ask him, he will give us the grace to persevere in our pursuit of temperance.